Welcome to NAMA episode 30.
Wow.
I know, we've done 30 of these. I don't know how that happened. So, we got a bunch of questions lined up for you. We want to do a couple giveaways. I'll let Natalie kind of figure out how we want to do the giveaways exactly. Yeah, we should have discussed that, huh?
We should have indeed.
We didn't.
We'll have to do some sort of, I don't know, maybe trivia.
Trivia is always good.
Or just have whoever can post the fastest. We'll see.
Yeah, that could work. Yeah, one of the two. So, let us know that you're watching. Let us know that the sound and video is coming across well and where you're watching from.
And comment on YouTube if possible, because that'll be the best way for us to see it.
Absolutely. Let's see. Do we have any news? A lot of new content has been going up on our website.
Yeah, we're going to put out a blast probably tomorrow or the next day, because Michael's been just pumping out videos. And so let you guys know what's been posted since our last update at the beginning of May. So you can try to keep up with those.
Yeah, we're going to start working on more interviews for you guys. Let us know who you'd like us to interview. I just put Catfish on Odor. That video you'll be seeing soon. We did a kind of an experiment with him, and so far I'm enjoying the results. I think he's doing really nicely. Let's see.
Yeah, we've had a lot of catfish content recently.
Yes, indeed. There's no trials coming up yet, so we don't know that. Oh, the NACSW, it just announced that they're releasing 2009 to 2011 trial videos for purchase.
Yeah.
So
if
we're going to
trial during that time, you might be very interested, because we all thought we would never get to see those videos.
Yeah, we thought they would be lost in a vault forever. And I have no idea what the quality of those videos will be, or how people were videoing back then.
Right. I mean, 11 years ago, that was like the stone age of video cameras, right?
It's true. So anyways, we're buying ours, and we're going to be analyzing them.
Michael's first NW1 with Lumi, and then the NW1 that Lumi and Cinnamon both did in May 2010. So those should be to us within the next 30 days, and then we're going to be very interested to see what that
Maybe
looks
we
like.
should watch them for the first time live in front of you, like a reaction video. Yeah. We're like, oh my gosh, that's so embarrassing. Look at my handling.
It'll be brutal.
It would be brutal. You guys might like that, but I definitely will at least analyze them as a trainer. Looking back on myself, what would I have told myself as a student?
So new then.
We were.
And our dogs were young. I mean, Lumi was just over a year. Well, she was less than a year in the first one and just a little bit over in the second one.
Oh my gosh. It's going to be weird to see Lumi young. Yeah, that's going to be weird. So yeah, we're going to be purchasing those and analyzing them. So yeah. And if you purchase old videos and want us to analyze them, that would be awesome. We would be very happy to do that. In fact, maybe that should be one of our giveaways, is that we'll buy people's old videos. One trial's worth,
maybe,
yeah, because we can use provided we can use it on Patreon, of course, or on our website.
Or if people want, people do buy them and want to send them in, we could have a themed video review blitz or something.
It will be really interesting for people to be able to see the progression of what trials looked like back then compared to what they look like now. I think it'll be eye-opening about how much change there's been, and you'll be able to see how different COs kind of evolved as time went on. So that should all be very, very interesting. Yeah, so let us know your thoughts about that. Let's see. Hi, Allison. Hi, Tina. Hi, Holly. Hi, Elena. And Patty. Yes, Dogwarts. So this shirt, we used to go to Las Vegas all the time to do workshops. And one of the themes of the workshop we did was Harry Potter themed. And so she created this Dogwarts school of
Sniffcraft and Odory.
Yeah, Las Vegas
Dog Sports. And that, I'm pretty sure that business doesn't exist anymore. But we had lots of fun going out there. And I know there's still a good Nosework community there. But
yes.
Yeah, we both have a Dogwart shirt that we like wearing.
Yes. Yeah, and hi, Charlotte. Thanks for joining us. Okay, I think we'll get into some questions, and then we'll do maybe a giveaway, and then some more questions, and then another giveaway.
All right.
Yeah, we'll see how that works. So let's see. Okay, question number one has a lot of backstory to it.
I'm not sure we should cover the entire backstory.
I may cover the backstory.
Okay.
So, because it's too hard to pull out questions from this. So, I mean, we can give you the gist that they're asking about multiple hides, but that doesn't know justice. So, let's see. I'm going to try to summarize. Probably should have summarized before. But, so back when she started, her dogs were put on multiple hides very quickly. She doesn't remember the transition. It was new. It was a blur. And her dog was very, very sticky with hides. And he was comforted by finding odor and would obsessively stick and go back to hides he'd found, especially if he was nervous. She got critiqued. So first thing that I will say in that is that theoretically, there doesn't need to be a transition from single hides to multiple hides. You could just do multiple hides. I just did this recently with someone. Actually, it was on primary though, and she's like, it was on odor. And she's like, I don't know how to do multiple hides. I was like, you just put multiple hides out. There doesn't actually need to be a transition. You can just do it.
Yeah,
but that said, there are ways to make that concept easier for dogs and people.
I mean, usually in my day one nose work on primary, I'll have a round that's several single hide searches.
Yeah.
And then I have a round that's 3 or 4 hides.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem to stretch the dog even the slightest to be able to go right into that. But then I do think, and we'll get into this more in a moment, but multiple hides on primary acts a little bit different than multiple hides on odor just because of how the handler interacts with them. So I think that's where a lot of this question is coming from.
It is. And another thing that I would say at the onset of this is that this is why I like a lot of these nervous fear issues to be solved before putting the dog on odor, because of that exact thing where the dog is now there's an extra reinforcement sequence that's happening there when the dog goes back to known odor and gets comforted. Mm-hmm. I'm not against the dog being comforted, but what are we setting up? Why did we put the dog on odor? Why did we do it so early? I think a lot of people, especially when nose work first got very popular, like back before it wasn't popular, the dogs were just doing primary for a long time. And then they introduced odor so they could do competitions. And then people started training and slapping odor on dogs quickly to get them into competition.
Or because that's what people think is the interesting part of nose work.
Sure, yeah, sure. It's just like, I guess, in agility where people put them on equipment really fast, And so anyways, that shows a lack of, in my opinion, foundation. Now, it's great if it builds a stickiness to odor where the dog finds a security with odor. You build all the stickiness. Stickiness is great, but I don't like teaching my dog to go back to hide over and over again, which is why I pick up hides. So anyways, so she got critiqued a lot for the dog returning to the hide, that more experienced students commented on the problem she created. It's a funny thing to call it a problem. It's only a problem from a competitive mindset. It's not a problem if you were a professional. Your dog keeps returning to the bomb. It's like, why is the bomb still there? Defuse the bomb, right? It's like, my dog keeps returning to the drugs. Pick them up. Take the drugs out of the search area. Your dog already did his job, right? So it's only a problem because we've decided that it's a problem. But
and I think to kind of continue with this metaphor of, say, drugs, you're not going to hang out next to the drugs with your dog, having them alert over and over and over again. You're say, all right, we found these. Let's move on. Let's either continue clearing the space or, go out, to the parking lot of the car or whatever.
Because you have objectives that you're trying to accomplish.
Right. And I think sometimes pulling those objectives into our nose work can clarify things as well.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes, I think when other students complain about things in a class, it's sometimes because of what they think of as the ideal, which for a lot of people is hit the hide and then move on and never think about it again. And then, for some people, it's because they see any little thing that the other dogs and handlers are doing as like wasting their time, which I think is a totally unfair way of like watching your classmates.
Yes.
And I like to address that more because, I see people feeling badly about the time they take in class, and, you're there to train your dog. And I don't think that should be something worrying in the mind of the handler. Like if the instructor needs to tweak things to make things flow well time-wise, then that's on the instructor. But I think that the handler should just worry about working their dog and building a really good dog. And I also...
They certainly should not be having pressure from the other students.
Yeah.
That is very disrespectful.
Yes.
In my opinion.
Yes. And also there are sometimes that the dog needs to take time on things. And so, it's not always a bad thing to have a little bit longer run. And some dogs should be allowed more time in their run because the handler is overhandling and solving things for them because of feeling that time pressure, even if it's a self-imposed time pressure, when really the dog should just be allowed, to hunt at their pace.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, big tangent.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So let's see. I lost my place. Oh yeah. So one of the things that I like to tell my students, because I like a really sticky dog, and I build really sticky dogs. That's kind of like my style of training. Is I tell them if they get to their trial and they fail the trial because the dog was so sticky they couldn't get the dog to leave a hide, which is really absurd. It's never going to happen. I've never known someone who failed a trial that way. I know people who failed because they didn't cover their search area. They got the dog off the hide 5 times and then just ended up right back there because they didn't know how to cover their search area. But let's say you had a dog so sticky you could not pry him off of the hide. You'll fail the trial, but every judge that day will offer to buy your dog, right? So you have to see that interesting dichotomy from what it takes to win a competition to what it takes to be a really good scent dog that makes everyone interested in the dog, right? So I think the stickiness is a great foundation that you layer on top of good handling. And if we need to reduce the stickiness later, it's better to reduce stickiness than to have to build the stickiness.
Well,
I don't like building up. I like chipping away from the top end if I can.
Yeah, well, and especially because the first level of competition, ORT, Novice, NW1 are all single hide searches. And so being a little extra sticky at that stage is no big deal.
No.
And then you can just reduce that before your, NW2 or, next level trial. Better than not being able to call alert, at least.
Yeah. So my gut told me I was worried. He was worried about many things: new environments, noises, people, but was comforted by finding odor and was odor obedient very quickly. And odor obedience can be built in fact, any obedience can be built very quickly by using fear. This and don't take this the wrong way. I'm not saying that you used fear to teach him, but you kind of did, right? The dog found a release of pressure from the odor, and fear-based behaviors are very strong. The question is that do we necessarily want to nurture that fear-based behavior or do we want to change it out? Because I like my dog doing nose work from a seeking perspective, that they're out there hunting rather than there's pressure in the world and I retreat to odor kind of thing. So that's something like a psychological thing to think about.
Yeah, and I think this particular dog has worked through this to a great extent, already, but just as a note, for other dogs that, may encounter this.
Yeah. And so over time, she's saying the problem got better, which, that's true. It could go away from just the dog gaining confidence. Like maybe the problem will solve itself, but I wouldn't want to accidentally make it keep going on. So she didn't really have any help through instruction from all of this. And she says, but she may have just been oblivious as a new student can be, which I understand totally. There are things that I didn't understand until way down the line. They go, I got it. Now I know why they said that. Anyways.
And then her second dog doesn't have the same issue at all.
Yeah.
She very quickly, was finding new hides far more reinforcing than staying with old hides or returning to old hides.
Yeah. So she paid really well when she going back, and then she paid less. So her next dog, she paid really well for finding the first hide, and then smaller when she went back. I used to play with the same kind of differential reward system in nosework where new hides got paid more than old hides. I don't do it anymore because I think it's more trouble than it's worth. Even if you created the right behavior, I don't think I necessarily would want odor to mean less to the dog just because they found it before. I think there's enough incentive for the dog of just the hunt drive of finding new hides that I don't need to weight it in any way. I always need to weight stickiness. That's a bigger problem than a dog who is too sticky. So that's part of my thing.
Well, and we work a lot on building that hunt drive and making sure the dog is working through those fear, confidence, or drive issues that may keep them from wanting to move on to other things.
She mentions the bird hunting because the dog did do hunting. That the dog it makes more sense to go find a new bird, which is very true. If you do hunting training seriously, and I think that applies to nose work, that one of the hard things is teaching a dog to retrieve a dead bird when there are live birds still out there. And you have to build a lot of drive for the retrieve, a lot of drive. And it's the same thing as stickiness, because if there's even a little bit of a gap of drive, you won't get the retrieve. The dog may go and sniff it. The dog may pick it up, and my dog may drop it. The dog may do none of those things and just run off and find a new bird. So that's why so many people go to such aversive means of teaching the retrieve, is because the stickiness is so important. And so I think the same applies to a lesser degree in nose work.
Yeah, that's something I actually really had to work on with Icy, is really overweighting her stickiness, because she would much rather hunt and find new hides and doesn't feel really any need to tell me about them when she sourced them, but for me working a lot on her communicating and wanting to stick.
Yeah. So now, as an instructor teaching new people, she's wondering how to sort out multiple hides. So she's asking, what is my procedure when a dog is ready for NW2 to moving to multiple hides? So first thing is that it shouldn't be a new experience of multiple hides when they're getting ready for NW2. I think multiple hides are essential for a dog's foundation at all levels. I think that they should just be done less. So I think we do weird things in our training progression. So for example, we might do single hides, and then suddenly we just start doing multiple hides, and it's like all multiple hides after that. And I think what should be more common is that the bulk of what we do at all levels are single hides, and a minority of what we do at all levels are multiple hides, right? Like all dogs need multiple hides. All dogs need single hides. You can't do one or the other. And same, like we introduced blank searches at NW3. So it's like one hide, then multiple hides, then no hides. It's like, why? That doesn't make sense. They should be happening at every level in the dog's experience. You should be exposing blank, multiples, and singles. That should just be the standard. So if that's the case, then you don't have to worry about introducing dogs to multiple hide problems. Now, introducing handlers to search area coverage problems is a whole different thing. That I may push till later.
Yeah, I wanted to say, if one did wait for however many years it takes a dog to pass an NW1. So say they spend 6 months and then they do their ORT, and then they spend another 6 months and do their NW1, which is probably faster than the average dog. And then they're working towards NW2 and they've only ever seen single hide searches. You may have some difficulty getting them to hunt for another hide after the first hide.
Yeah.
Because you built such an immensely strong expectation. So I think variation is hugely key across all levels.
Yes. I remember very clearly someone coming to a class once who had never done multiple hides, and the dog would find one of the hides and then would completely check out and usually go off and pee. The dog had no idea that there could be multiple hides out there. And it's like, to me, it's like that should be done. Like the dog should expect there could be millions out there or nothing out there. And the dog should just keep learning and just keep looking. Yeah. So that should be done in the primary stage, in my opinion. So yeah, that's the one thing. Now, let's see. The way I do it, it's I don't do anything. I just put multiple hides out there. And like I said, I have my students pick up the hides at first. So I might not expose my handlers for a very long time to how to move your dog off of an odor without picking up the hide. My students often just learn to do that on their own. Like we do a game day, and now it's the 30-second game. Find as many hides as you can in 30 seconds. And without any training whatsoever, person just learns. Find a hide, reward, just move on. And that's all they do is just move on. It doesn't matter.
Body language, it's easy peasy.
And honestly, I don't care if they drag their dog away from odor, if they call their dog away from odor, if they lure the dog away from odor, if they're just natural handlers and just the calm body language pulls them off. That's my preference. But if they do any of those, it doesn't matter, because we're putting so much money in the bank in their odor, their stickiness, that a little bit of that done in trial is fine.
But I also think super consistent picking up the hide really does build the expectation that it has been removed and the dog should continue on. Now, that doesn't mean they won't catch it again later and go, oh, wait, let me tell you about this one. but you'll finish rewarding, you'll stand up as if you picked it up, and the dog just goes. And I have students who, switched from kind of regular, how everybody handles, hide staying down, to picking it up consistently. And she was very consistent. And within, I would say, a couple months, she went to a trial and said her dog was not, trying to, get more treats out of her at odor anymore. She was just moving on to hunt for the next one. So I really think that it works, but you have to be consistent, because if you leave a question in the dog's mind of, well, is it still there and I should ask for more treats, or is it gone? Then you're gonna get that question in trial.
Yeah, and yes, I agree. I would say more important than teaching about multiple hides is about teaching about search area coverage. Because the hard thing is the responsibility of the handler is to know we found this hide and we're not going back, and to use their handling to prevent the dog from going back. But the problem is, one, the student forgets where the hide was, or doesn't pay attention and knows where it is, but doesn't even know where they are in the search at any point in time. And they should be practicing their memory skill now. We shouldn't wait till elite to practice memory, which a lot of people do. They should be practicing memory.
You need it so much in really all levels.
Yes, and they need to be able to be aware of where they've been and where they haven't been, so they know where to go next. And it feels very weird in a non-blind setup to not, because what ends up happening is, rather than just letting the dog search freely, but excluding a part of the search area, like you imagine an imaginary boundary marker that you're going to observe now. Instead of doing that, people lead the dog from hide to hide, and then they get this criticism that they're leading the dog, which is correct. So what they do is they stop leading the dog and let the dog go back. And it's like, no, you can not lead the dog and prevent the dog from accessing a certain part of the search area. We already do that when we don't let the dog leave the search boundaries, right? We're letting the dog have freedom within a boundary.
Yeah, and generally, if you're willing to even just have that in your mind as how you're going to handle, you don't have to. Yeah. Because like we were talking about earlier, the dog does want to move on and find the other ones.
Yeah. One of the virtual classes I did, it was last week or the week before, I can't remember. But it was in the pattern and handling class. What it was, we did segmented searches. And segmented searches are just as simple as they sound. Let's say you have a 3-vehicle search. Instead of it being a 3-vehicle search, it's 1-vehicle searches side by side. When you leave a vehicle, you can't go back. And so you have to make sure that you cover each vehicle equally. They are very common in Elite Division matches. But I think they're a great way of teaching people how to parcel out a search area. When you approach a search area, what are you going to divide it into for your sake, so you can remember where you've been and where you haven't been? And that doesn't mean you strictly observe any particular boundary. What it means is, you, instead of one big massive exterior, we got a wall over there, we got a wall over there, we got a picnic area, and we got a grass area, right? So those are my zones. So I'm going to work them, and I'm going to think of them as zones. There are 4 zones now instead of one big blob. I got these 4 zones.
Yeah, and I actually think I've been thinking about this a lot recently, because I had also been doing these.
I may share that class on the website, by the way, for those who didn't do it, but I have to ask the students first. Go ahead.
And thinking about, obviously when you do things in class and it's not blind, it's different than when you're actually in trial, and how much do segmented searches translate to non-segmented searches. And I think, that's obviously a huge, huge conversation. But one short thing I was thinking about was that if you handle it like you're covering your segment and then moving on, I think that translates from non-blind to blind so much better than just random chaotic searching.
Absolutely.
And so there's not a huge kind of shift where you're like, well, this is working in practice, but I don't know if it's going to work in competition. And it also, I think, allows the dog to feel less like where the hides are, because you're worrying about covering your search area, not worrying about where the hides are. But anyway, that we're now on a totally different topic. Did you want to answer that follow-up?
Yeah, we might as well answer this follow-up real quick. So, and I think that we have a bunch of questions about picking up odor.
Yeah, I think we should probably move on to the other questions.
No, well, we're going to finish this, but yeah. Because we're almost done anyways. So, this question is a question about picking up hides. That do the dogs sometimes go back to a previous hide to sort out another hide they may be working? Yes, they absolutely do. And picking up a hide doesn't stop them from doing that. They can still go back, because they're not going back to a hide. They're going back to a spot in the search where the other hide was pooling. So
sometimes.
What do you mean sometimes?
Well, I think there are a variety of reasons.
for
why a dog might return to that spot.
So why else would they return?
So
to
I
the
think
spot?
I think sometimes, yes, they're returning to that spot to say, okay, the hide is also falling here. Like you just said, I think sometimes they're going to that spot to go, maybe I should ask to get paid again. Never mind, I'll work this other one.
No, I'm just talking about in this, when they're working specifically, they go back to hide to work out another hide.
Yeah, I actually think that most of the time dogs don't, because a lot of trainers will say, oh, the dog needs to go back to confirm to work out the other one. I don't think that's true.
Well,
I think rarely does the dog need to work that back to that hide to confirm a convergence. But I do agree with what you said about overlapping odor.
Yeah.
They may work off of the same object or spot.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So, yeah, I was going to say that in just a second, which was that, yes, that happens, but it's way rarer than anybody thinks. Like, I think you hear it from people that, like, it's happening all the time. It's like, in my experience, it's like 1 out of 1,000 searches that actually happens.
Yeah.
The rest of the time, the dog goes back to hide, leaves, finds the second hide. They didn't work the second hide off the first hide. They worked the second hide off of itself, and they just went back to the other one in the process.
Yeah.
But yeah,
or because of conflict about getting paid again or not paid again.
Sure, absolutely. And sometimes why it looks like the dog is going back and working the hide from there is because what they are confirming is that they're not going to get paid. So they go there, oh, I'm not going to get paid? Okay, and then I'll go to this one. So then it looks like they worked it off of that one, but all they were doing was working the handler. They weren't working the odor problem necessarily.
Yeah, because people will say this a lot as a reason not to repay a dog for returning to a hide. Because they're like, oh, they're not actually going back. They are working another odor off of it. Which, again, I think happens occasionally, but is not what happens most of the time.
Yeah. So, sorry, I'm still reading. I'm trying to summarize this. So let's see. Actually, there may not be anything more from this that I need to go over.
I didn't think so.
Yeah, so she's just asking how to get the multiple odor stuff worked out. And I think that don't overthink it, don't overdo it. It's nothing complicated. Just set up multiple hides. Picking them up saves a lot of issues. But even if you don't do that, doing multiple hides incorrectly is still better than not doing them, in my opinion. So do them. But yeah, like picking them up, great. Teach them how to work the hides and not go back sparingly, but do it. Don't avoid it because it's wrong. It chips away at your dog's odor obedience to not let them go back or to let them go back and not pay them. It chips at their odor obedience, but it's worth doing to prepare for trial.
Yeah. And just as sort of a general note off of what you just said is that, experiment with things and don't let, to everybody, don't let fear of doing something wrong keep you from ever trying it. Yep. You might as well try it. Like Michael did a 1+ experiment of Lumi going off of odor, never working odor.
We did an odor search with her recently.
And then this past week we did an odor search with her to see. I had set a fun hide I wanted to run all the dogs on. I was like, do you mind if I run her?
So it was a suspended hide. Yeah.
Suspended hide in the tree. This dog's been working food only for over a year.
Yeah. Found
the odor no issue. None at all. Even faster than a couple of our other dogs.
Yeah. Because of her experience. And so, yeah, exactly. And we'll post that video on the website too.
Yeah.
I am experimenting all the time. People who've trained with me in person know that. Like, I won't do this at a workshop usually, but my personal students that I know and I've been working with for a while, they know I'll come. Okay, we're experimenting, right? This is what we're doing. We're everyone says, don't do X, Y, Z, so we're going to do it, right?
And that may be the only week we do it, but we're going to try it.
And I like knowing why you shouldn't do it, not just someone says, don't ever do this. I want to know why, So anyways, that's what we play with. Doing something once never ruins your dog, really. That's my opinion. So Gail is mentioning in the comments that her Citroen rescue background, they call segmented searching with the name quadrant A, B, C, or D searching. That firefighters divide areas of a building on fire. So that's a great metaphor and way of thinking about it.
Yeah, I often call them quadrants, and then I'm like, well, there are not 4 of them, so I don't know if I can call them quadrants.
Yeah. But so our next question is they want us to talk about picking a new Nosework dog. So we talked about this a little bit with Sue Sternberg. If you haven't seen our interview with Sue Sternberg, I highly recommend you watch that because Sue, in my opinion, is one of the best experts on how to pick a dog. She picked Catfish for me, and I don't think I'll ever pick my own dog again.
And I have her pre-booked to pick my next dog, even though I don't know when that will be.
So let me start out real simple. Start with a dog you like. That's the most important thing. Do not buy a breed for Nosework. Unless it's a bulldog, okay? Nothing against bulldogs, okay? Unless it's a bulldog, the dog's going to be fine, okay? Yes, brachycephalic dogs have trouble with overheating. They don't actually have trouble with Nosework. They have trouble with overheating. But by and large, any dog breed can be just fine in Nosework. Can be just great. Now, if you have dreams of being the Nationals winner, then you want to get, it doesn't matter the breed, but you want to get a dog who's physically fit and can last for a long time and have endurance. So,
and
smaller,
if statistics prove anything, which they don't, you want to get a lab. But
yeah,
if you don't want a lab, that's fine. You can still get to nationals. You can still do amazing with variety of breeds.
Yeah, but that kind of stuff. The problem with that is you don't know how the statistics come about.
No,
so it could be that labs do better because the people who do better get labs, or it could be that the people who do better because they have labs, and we don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg.
That's why I said you can't know anything off the statistics, but there's a reason a lot of people pick them.
Number one, get a dog you like, because if you like them, you're going to train them more, you're going to spend more time with them, you're going to spend more money on them. 2, get a dog that's healthy and temperamentally sound. You do not honestly, red bandana dogs aren't as, in my opinion, as competitive in Nosework because they're more stressed. Mm-hmm. Now there's degrees of red bandana. There are dogs who wear red bandanas that aren't like Hazel. We could put a red bandana on her, but she doesn't need one. She's not really a red bandana dog. But an aggressive, out of control dog isn't as competitive as a dog who is temperamentally sound and happy to go.
Well, even a dog who can just chill and sleep in their crate between runs is going to have more stamina and less stress than a dog who's in the crate all day.
Yeah, when I talk to my students about what they need to do well at a trial, the number one thing is they need to be able to rest in their crate. And they need to potty on command. The Nosework part, it doesn't even really factor into what's important about the trial. The Nosework part is the easy part. Get a dog who can chill for long periods of time. Get a dog who can turn on and off. Yeah, I don't want a dog who just passes out and you can't ever get them back up.
No.
But I want a dog who can chill and who can turn on for me. And that part of that is training, right? In fact, most of that is training, but some of that is genetics as well. And the ability to, have a dog that's one of the great things about retrievers is they're designed to have a lot of energy and drive, but also to sit in a duck bind for hours doing nothing, right? And that you need to have both. You need to have the shutdown and the turn on.
Yeah, and this should probably go without saying, but don't get a dog that you're oh, that looks so cool, who has some feature that you can't stand.
Yeah.
Personally, I can't stand baying dogs. I may love them from a distance. They're beautiful. They have fun, temperaments and instincts and stuff, but I just cannot stand baying. I don't want to live with baying, so I'm not going to get one of those dogs. And, I know that there are a lot of people who look at my dogs and go, I wouldn't want to live with that energy, which is so important to know that about yourself.
Yeah. If I was honestly going to try to get my next pure Nosework dog, because that's not what Catfish was for me. Catfish is going to make a great Nosework dog, but I was looking for a hunting dog. So if I was getting a pure Nosework dog for myself, I would go to a shelter and find a nice mixed breed, about 2 to 3 years old, that had a great temperament and was
good structure.
Good structure. So that's what I would look for. And I know that I could take a dog like that to nationals. And how I know that is because a lot of them were at nationals every single time, right? Now that might bar me from AKC. Not really, because you can do it.
Yeah.
You can do AKC Nosework with a mixed breed.
Yeah.
But if you want, if you have goals to make it with this particular breed, that's fine. But that's a choice that you make.
Right. We got into Nosework when he had about 6 or 8 month old Siberian Husky.
Yeah.
And she was actually the first Husky or in the top two to get a number of titles, partially because Huskies are a little difficult.
Yeah.
And so it was, I think it was a lot of fun for him to make that progress with her, but that's not the dog you go get if you have like really big dreams for nose work.
Yeah. So hope that makes sense.
And then I think you already said that, like keeping the dog in, really fit, not overweight at all. Yeah,
because you can ruin any dog for nose work by developing the wrong things, developing lack of engagement, overfeeding the dog,
not teaching them to chill in a crate.
Yeah, exactly. These things can definitely hold you back. But yeah, those are training things. So that goes further down the line. But just in terms of picking them, pick a dog you like that's temperamentally and structurally sound. Yeah. So let's see. Have you ever seen a chow at a trial? I don't think I have.
I'm trying to picture.
I'm sure, like the NACSW keeps records that you can look up how many chows have.
I'm going to look this up real quick.
Yeah, because looking back, I feel like I've never seen one at a trial,
which seems weird. Actually,
it is, because I've seen so many breeds, and I've learned about breeds that I'd never heard about before at trials.
And I know I've been in other classes with chow, so I feel like I would have been in a trial with one, but I can't picture it.
Okay,
probably, I know mixes for sure.
Okay, ORTs. Let's see how many chows have. Wow. That's amazing.
It's amazing.
There are only 3 chows with ORT titles. ORT. Wow. How many have an NW1? Is that all 3 of them?
2 of them.
2 of them. Oh my gosh. You want a ground break and nose work? Get a chow.
1 with an NW2.
Oh my gosh. That is hysterical.
It is. I'm so
None
shocked.
of them have an NW3.
NW3s. Fascinating.
Yeah, so
good question.
That may be foreboding. Like, if you're like, I'm gonna make a chow that does well at nose work, maybe, but maybe that's a really bad sign. I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Who knows how many are in nose work classes? Like, we have no idea. But very interesting.
Yeah, because Bloodhound was another really low one. When I was training Zeus the Bloodhound, there were like 6 with maybe 4 with an NW1 or something like that. So it was lower than I expected, and I just lost out on getting the NW3 first. So I just barely missed it out. See, how many have an ORT now?
A few. 13
Bloodhounds have an ORT.
But I mean, compared to these other breeds where there are hundreds and hundreds.
Do Labrador Retriever.
Okay.
Just so we can compare, so you have like an idea. Labrador Retriever, I believe, is the AKC. What the AKC is the most popular breed.
Or at least has been.
So this is ORT statistics with labs.
Okay, hold on.
There are
like an immense number of pages. Hold on. There are 45 pages. There are 886 labs with an ORT.
Yeah.
Compared to 3 or 13 of those other breeds.
Yeah, so you could be in the top 10 if you really wanted to pick a specific breed. So Diane's asking, how do you assess whether a dog is structurally sound? That's a really good question, and it's really a better question to people who know more about structure. So there are 2 parts of structure that I think are important. One is the phenotype of the dog. So, for example, I'm going to offend some people right now. Brachycephalic dogs have bad structure. Long dogs have bad structure.
Anything
really
that's
huge,
disproportionate.
Anything really small. Okay, so they have all these illnesses that come with the breed. A good example is Cavaliers being very small. Have a disease that their brain goes too big for their skull, so they have seizures, things like that. Not all Cavaliers have that, but a large number of them. So those ones fall out of the realm of structurally sound. Now, the second
dogs who can't procreate on their own because of their build and things like that.
Now, the second category are dogs that are otherwise structurally sound, but have some problem with them. And it may be genetic, like endemic to that line of dogs, or maybe that they injured themselves.
Yeah, like a lot of hip issues in German Shepherds and a lot of other breeds, dysplasias.
So you have to do your research. You have to be cautious about who you listen to. Like, a lot of breeders will tell you the best of their breed and omit the worst of it. They'll omit the high cancer rates or, that kind of stuff. So really look into it. Ask people who don't like the breed. That's what I have always found is like, what do people who don't like the breed, what do they say about it? What problems do they not like? And if I can live with all those problems, then I'm golden, right? People who don't like Huskies, they're strong-willed. They are high prey drive. I'm like, I can live with both those things. That's great
but
for
from
me.
a structure perspective, they tend
no
to
one
be
ever told me
very, proportionate in their structure, and not have a lot of genetic.
So,
like I don't know if I've ever met a Husky with hip dysplasia.
So, and I'm sure there are Huskies out there with genetic problems, but I've never heard anyone criticize Huskies as being an unhealthy breed. They're pretty much a healthy breed. So they have other problems that I can live with. So you just got to do your homework. I would have
meeting parentage is really important, but it goes back, further than that, of course.
Yeah. And so, when you're picking with a very specific breed type, there are certain, you should know what problems are going to come with that and be aware that breeders are going to do their best to hide it.
Well, not all breeders. Some breeders.
I do not trust breeders. I also do not trust shelter workers. Okay. They are there to sell the dogs. And it's very hard to find really, truly honest people on both sides. Not that they're being maliciously dishonest, but that they will overlook things because of their love for the animal.
Yeah, sure. But they're also, looking for breeders who do the appropriate health testing for their breed and who also, give you time to have the dog checked out by a vet, under contract and things like that can help.
Yeah. I've gotten very lucky with my dogs. I guess Cinnamon was unlucky.
Yeah, but she was also a random ranch dog from San Bernardino, so there wasn't any health testing.
Yeah, but none of our other dogs had health testing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Icy did.
Yeah.
But none of the other ones had health testing, and they're all really healthy.
Yeah, I mean, all of our, except for Cinnamon, who had a weird genetic
Lumi's never going to die. And Ghost lasted longer than I expected her to last. So, our dogs have turned out really healthy without health certificates. But, I kind of knew a little bit of what I was getting into with
them. And they're within lines that, had the lines that Hazel and Ghost come from, they're living to 14, 15. They're working sheep all the time. And so, if a dog lives that long and has been working that hard, that their body has to be put together pretty well.
Yes. Yeah. So, next question. Would you remind me as the lowest odor strength that you work on? I seem to recall a recommendation not to go below 2 Q-tips. Am I remembering that correctly? If yes, can you refresh me on the rationale for that recommendation? So, no. First off, it's not the amount of Q-tips that's important as much as how they were scented. So the lowest I use with my dogs is 1 Q-tip of NACSW scenting, and that's because that's the lowest I could use. I mean, I guess I could cut the half. It's a half Q-tip. I guess you could cut the half Q-tip in half again, but I'm not going through that much trouble. Also, I don't know how much the 1/2 swab has on it.
Right.
So it may be extremely low. That said, I favor higher quantities in my training. So I tend not to do that very often because I think having a dog who's too attuned to lower quantities leads to fringing and falsing on pulling odor and that kind of stuff.
But we do make a point of including a fair amount of variation. Yes. And when we send people home with odor, when we first put them on odor, we usually send them home with five Q-tips and tell them to, vary between those,
averaging 3 because that's what it's going to be in trial for NACSW scenting.
Yeah. But within, that 5, doing every variation. And then, occasionally we'll do bigger odor bombs. And we do train with AKC strength odor regularly as well.
It's generally safer to go higher than it is to go lower because a dog will eventually, if they're frustrated enough, if they have odor obedience and hunt drive, if they're frustrated enough, they will alert on a lower quantity if they have to. But the higher quantity is difficult because the dog is going to fringe, even if it's got really good hunt drive, even if it's got all that stuff. Hopefully the dog has a really strong drive to source.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing for between quantities is as long as the dog understands get to source, it will carry you, even though it'd be better to do the training, but it can carry you through experiencing an odor threshold that your dog is not as familiar with.
Yeah. Okay, next question. things to work on when a certain boy dog wants to mark in exterior search areas. So my answer to this that I give to all my students is, if you have a potty problem in searches, the only thing you should be working on are potty areas until it becomes easy. And you just have to make it simple enough. On leash with containers. 4 containers in a row. Just drive building. Letting the dog playing the shell game, right? Until the dog acts like they're not in a potty area. Then multiple hides. Then fewer containers. Then hides out of containers. Then no containers. Then blind searches. Then blank searches eventually. And then new potty area. And then new potty area. And then new potty area. And eventually that gets marked. Or that the marking goes away. The second thing is, make sure to work on clear context cues that let the dog know when they're searching and when they're not searching. So a big mistake I see people making is putting the dog's nose work equipment on and then go potty. It's like, no, this is not potty equipment. This is nose work equipment. Do not wear it when you're pottying your dog. And then the last thing is to work on with a dog who marks is you need to get into control of their marking in their rest of their life. They should not be allowed to mark on every tree on a walk. If they believe they're allowed to mark whenever they want, then they're going to mark in searches more. So my dogs are not allowed to mark or pee whenever they want when we're in public. When we go to a park, they go potty when I say potty. The rest of the time they're working with me, they're not allowed to pee. And so I think that's just good manners in public with a dog, because dogs peeing and pooping everywhere is disgusting for the general public and disgusting for me too. I don't like going to a park when there's dog poop out there. And good dog owners pick it up, but it would be better if they didn't poop there. If they pooped in the one little strip by the parking lot, not near the playground where kids are playing and that kind of stuff. So that for me is a politeness thing, but it's also a good training thing if you have a competition dog. Anything to add about that?
I don't think so. Making sure that your reinforcement is as good as possible to help the dog feel like it's really worth working for that over working the potty. And and if the dog is really obsessing over pee and not bringing themselves back into nose work, then I'm gonna just give them a break.
Yeah.
If you're not going to work, you're not going to work. And then maybe modify my my exercise so that it's a little more attention grabbing for the dog. Not let them just sit there obsessing.
Yeah, I think I kind of mentioned this last time too. I'm remembering it. It's like, if your dog is really distracted by grass, what pulls their attention away from grass? Like, if there's another dog running around in that grass, does the dog still pee? Or does the dog engage with the dog? And if the dog's engaging with the dog, then that shows you have the problem yourself, that you don't know how to engage your dog. But
or the odor hasn't been made engaging enough, or the hunting aspect hasn't been made engaging enough.
And to go on what Natalie said as well, which is really important, I don't know why people are so comfortable working a dog who's not working the way you want him to work. If the dog is showing a lackluster performance, if they're kind of being distracted or lethargic, don't keep working them. Pull them out. Reset. Do it again. I hate watching people just let their dog work like really lazy and uninterested. It's like, get that dog out, re-jazz them up, re-excite them. I only want to work a dog who's working their best. I'm trying to handle my best. I want my dog to work their best. So it's a mutual thing. Gail's mentioning that working a little, too little odor creates dogs that quit because the hunt is always too hard. That absolutely can happen. So that is worth thinking about. Okay, next question. When we pick up hides during training, how can we manage them so they don't get contaminated? I believe my hides now have chicken and hot dog grease on them along with the hide scent.
Is that a picking up thing or a pairing thing? Would be my
because you could end up with the same problem by pairing. I never worry about it because I am not worried about the hide being contaminated with food scent. I refresh my odor in my tins regularly enough that I don't think it's an issue.
And you could always wipe them off.
You can, or wash the tins. If you're really worried about it, put them in a different pocket than the chicken and the hot dog. Have a pocket.
Well, and it could even be just a hand thing,
Sure.
where if you've been rewarding and your hands are all covered, then it's getting more on your tin. But I don't think
I've never worried about it.
And it usually kind of dries off and comes off, even if you aren't cleaning it super specifically. I know some people are more worried about their stuff being clean than others.
I actually think there's a benefit, because I think there's a benefit to pairing.
It's like subtle pairing all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I think that subtle pair only makes their odor obedience better.
And we really want, the way we train is to make the dogs think that odor equals food. And so that only kind of reaffirms that belief for the dog, hopefully.
Yeah. Gail's mentioning that search and rescue handlers only let their dogs poop and pee on command, even on walks. I actually wish we kind of went back to that as a culture. That used to be more normal. Yeah. In fact, I think it was John Rogerson who said that the worst invention ever made for dogs was the poop bag. That made it okay for your dog to poop in public. And before that, if your dog pooped in public, it was a horrifically embarrassing event, where you had to find paper towels and clean it. And yeah, so...
Well, and I make, if I can, I make a point of having my dog do their business, here in the yard before we go in the car. And then, maybe they might need another chance to pee if we have a long drive, but I'm not gonna have to worry about walking them a long time to poop or something, because they've taken care of it. It's done. And like it's really a lifesaver, actually. We used to road trip a lot. We haven't road tripped in a while now, but you get them out of the car, go potty, done. You're not having to wander around for ages. When you have, like, say they call you for your search and you hadn't realized you were up so soon, run out to the potty area, tell them to go, they go. And it's just so much less stressful than not having a potty on command. I think it was something we'd never taught it to our dogs before doing nose work, but I think a couple months into nose work, we started teaching it. And it's been like, first thing we teach ever since. Hazel knew about it. She would pee on command. Day 2, she was with us as a 10-week-old
It makes
puppy.
it so much easier for our pet sitters, too, when they come. They don't have to wait for an hour. He's not peeing or pooping. They let him out. They say, go potty. Our dogs pee and poop really quickly. It's just a huge quality of life improvement for us and our dogs.
Yeah. And it does. It gives the dog clarity about why you're out there and what you want. And I do think that it helps the dog understand, when you're doing something else like nose work, that's not potty time. You gave them the potty time, and now it's not it.
Yeah. Next question.
Yeah.
How many days a week do you train nose work? How many times is it games versus targeted objectives such as close hides, corners, thresholds, etc.? By the way, I think my dog considers it all games. Yeah. Okay. So game is a concept in our heads
For the handler.
Yeah. So it's hard to say, like, dogs play, but it's hard to say, like, one of Roger Brandes' famous quotes is play is serious business. That play isn't like this game, like necessarily like we play it. It's like
Although
training.
It's serious business to me too. I'm very competitive.
That's true. And like, if you don't think human play isn't serious, you've never watched a family play Monopoly. The only thing that holds them together at the end of that is that they're blood related, So yeah. I actually have a document about this that I'm going to post to the website soon, and it's on Patreon. If you want it, just let me know. Which is what should I practice? That kind of goes through that. It depends on a lot of things. It depends on the age of the dog, how close you are to a competition, how many dog sports you do. All of that matters. Honestly, I probably train nose work once or twice a month. Lumi's retired now, and Ghost has been retired for a long time.
We've been ramping it up a little bit with Catfish. He's been doing it maybe more like twice a week.
When
recently.
they're starting their nose work journey, they probably do it like 3 or 4 days a week, if not every day of the week. But once they get to the like started category where they have all their foundation, they go on a maintenance schedule where they go once or twice a month.
And this is us. Like, we don't go to regular classes. We used to for years and years.
And then it would be
we went
once
to
a
regular
week.
classes.
But again, we're also doing multiple dog sports. So Catfish, every single day is training for hunting. Every single day he does a little bit of obedience. Every single day he's doing tricks, right? So he does all these things every day. So it's just a matter of balancing all the different criteria we have. And as we approach a trial, that will increase and peak and then decrease right before the trial. So we'll tweak it depending on what events are coming up in the near future. Now, in terms of how much is games, for me, it's almost all drills, which call them drill, call them a game, whatever. But it's a non-blind, objective-based search. It's okay. What are we working on today? Today we're working on thresholds. Today we're working on corners. Today we're working on vehicles. Today we're working on containers. We have an objective before we set out, and that's what we do.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that it should feel like a drill to the dog. It should, reinforcement should be good and exciting, and the dog should feel like it's great fun. But you're not just lackadaisically running the dog. You are thinking about what you're doing and planning.
Yeah, drill does not mean not fun. Drill means targeted skill building. We have a skill that we've targeted, we've narrowed down, we've isolated to just that one thing. So the mistake I see a lot of people making is that they cast too broad of a net, and they do a search that has 8 or 9 different skills all in it. And there's one that's a problem, and they want to target that one skill, but you can't target one skill amongst 8. You got to just target that one skill. So you want to do a corner, then do a corner. Don't do a whole search, with a corner hide, with a hide in the fan, a hide at the threshold, hide here and there.
Right.
That's just not targeted enough.
Right, and repetition is so important for building the dog having the understanding, because you can't tell them corners are important, but you can set hides and corners over and over and over again. And so don't feel like it's boring or something, because if you're keeping, like I said, that reinforcement high and exciting, you could do only corner hides for the next month. Not that you should, because you're going to unbalance your dog, in another direction. But you can do things that feel repetitious to us that don't need to feel boring for the dog at all.
And just to clear something up, I really don't believe that dogs can get bored. I think handlers can get bored. If you want to tell me that drills are boring, then you have to look at my dogs and look at how my dogs do nose work and tell me that to my face. That my dog looks bored because of all the drills we do. We almost do all drills. So why aren't my dogs bored? I think humans get bored, and the dog contagious that from us. The example I always use, does your dog get bored of the food you put down every day in the bowl? No? Okay, then why is he getting bored of this? It means food. If they're getting bored of it, it's because we're getting bored of it, or because the work is not worth the reinforcer. So that could happen if you're stingy, which we're anything but stingy.
Yeah, and I do think that sometimes people set their searches in a way that doesn't challenge the dog enough, and so then they're like,
Too easy.
I know it's in the box. I know it's in that open box 100 times in a row. And that can get where the dog is not having to utilize their hunting and their brain and really working. And so I think you can still do drills without making it repetitive in a way that the dog doesn't get to think. They want to use their nose. And what?
Nothing. What?
Okay. Oh, you had a weird look on your face.
Because of what I'm going to say next.
Okay, go ahead.
You done? Okay, so Tina is saying that Doug was bored with death nuggets. So let me talk about that, because there's a lot of reasons for that. Okay.
What are death nuggets?
I think she means kibble.
Oh, tell us, Tina.
Yeah, so I may be misinterpreting, but let me know if I'm right about that. So one, Doug was slightly overweight, so he wasn't bored with them. He may have been overfed. And two, Doug got vast arrays of really great food. He wasn't bored of food. He was bored of specific types of food. So I was right. It was kibble. So yes, you can get a dog to be bored of certain types of food. But
if I gave my dog carrots every day, they'd probably be bored of that.
Yeah. Yes. If you can call it food to a dog.
Right.
It's a chew.
Right, which can be the case with some, he was on a specific diet kibble because of his weight and his health problems. And so, that probably wasn't very interesting. But he did get a lot of good stuff in nosework searches. And I do recommend, I talk about this fairly regularly, but, mixing up the kind of treats you're giving your dog in nosework and finding what is really meaningful to them. Is it cheddar cheese? Is it chicken? Is it hot dogs? Is it only beef hot dogs like Trisha's dogs? Or is it the junkiest, cheese-filled hot dogs you can find that some dogs think are the best?
20 hot dogs out in a room, and if there were 5 turkey hot dogs out there, the dog would eat around them and would it's turkey, and then would eat only the beef hot dogs. It was the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's quite interesting.
Yeah. Should we get on to our last question?
Sure.
Okay. So, wondering your take on whether you can, through practice, teach a dog not to expect to get repaid at hides. This was a topic at a recent virtual Noser camp. I found it interesting. It was intended to improve speed at the upper levels, especially at trials. I have a dog who often goes back to hide to work out the wires. I don't always repay, but if she has worked it out again, I sometimes do. I often pick up the hide once she is done. I don't think you save any time personally. So for me, it's like I know you can. I know there are dogs who don't expect getting paid, but that result is not interesting to me. In a moment of frustration, the dog will go back and get frustrated. I like having a dog who will go back to hide that I can use as a morale boost. That will actually increase my speed in the search if I can prevent my dog from getting frustrated. I think what will save you time at a trial is proper search area management. Knowing where you've been, where you haven't been, working a clear pattern.
And a dog who loves to hunt and a dog who tells you very clearly about the hide the first time.
Yes. And that is not, what I just said is not the same thing as micromanaging. So don't confuse the two. But I really don't think teaching the dog not to go back and get repaid at hide is really a major time saver unless you've taught a dog to cheap shot you and just keep going back to the same hide over and over again. In which case, just pick up the hide in training. Stop reinforcing that behavior. Yeah. But and in trial, don't let them go back.
Right. And I do really, again, I already said this, but I do really think that if you're consistent, you're not going to create a dog who goes back unnecessarily. They may rework it out in a very honest way, but they're not just going to go, like Pez dispenser it and cheat you. But I do think that, I lost it. Totally lost it.
Cheating.
Oh, so if you are choosing to leave a hide down and you send your dog on to find another hide and they turn around and ask to get paid again, don't pay them again because you just sent them on. That gives them completely conflicting information. Either don't give them that move on signal and keep paying them, or do nothing. But you have to be clear with your dog. If you've decided that find another means find another, don't then tell them that means they can turn around, like without taking a step, turn around to get paid again. Yeah. I think it's really important to figure out what you like. I don't give my dog, I don't have a find another command. I will occasionally give my original search command again. But I don't really that's my dog is hunting. It's not particularly meaningful to me to say that again. But I think you should think through, what are the signals you give your dog when you're in a nosework search? What do they mean to you? What do you expect from your dog? What does your dog think they mean? And that can clear up a lot of the miscommunication in nosework.
I think, yes. And I try to be very clear to my dog. And so my dogs know when we leave a hide that once we've left, we're generally not going back. If we get back, so think about it this way. Here's a hide and there's a room and it goes around like this and there's a choke point. So you're going to have to cross to it twice. You have to go one side and you're going to have to cross it again to go this side. So I get this hide, pay the dog, and I work this room, find hides, and the dog doesn't try to go back, but now we have to go to the other side of the room and my dog does end up going back. I think it takes just as much time to say, you found it, move on, as it does say, good dog, here's a treat, move on. But on the one hand, I've built odor obedience, I've built morale, I've built motivation. On the other hand, I've diminished it. Mm-hmm. So now, could you train a dog to ignore it and go through? Yes. But then I think you run the risk of dog blowing past hides that they haven't found. Like what happens if there's two hides there and the dog blows past that area because they found one of the hides in that area? We saw that recently in a class that I did on closed hides. That will be going up soon. So keep an eye out for that. But
I also think you have to look at what the dog is actually doing, because even though I said earlier, I think dogs don't often have to work one hide actually off of another hide. Sometimes they are working a completely different odor.
Yes.
Their nose happens to graze over that area, but they're working. If you step in and pay at that moment, you may very well interrupt what they were trying to do. So you have to be really watching for exactly what's happening in the moment. And if the dog does resource the hide, then I do want to pay it. And if they don't, if they were doing something else entirely, I want to have remained fairly neutral and allow them to do whatever they were on the track of doing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, don't allow your dog to cheap shot you. that just don't do that. That's just a bad habit. Even if you are in the camp of, I always repay my dog when they go back to odor, which I'm in that camp. Don't let them go back and cheap shot you over and over again. Just don't do it. It's a bad habit, whether you believe that or not.
Yeah. And I That's another tangent, which I don't need to go on right now. Let me see. I want to see the question again.
Okay.
There's anything else I wanted to say about that?
We didn't do any giveaways yet.
Oh yeah, we forgot.
We
We
didn't do
got
that.
very in depth in our question
Yeah, we did.
answering.
So what's a good trivia question?
The other thing was about the upper levels. The upper levels, because it's very often either ranges of hides, unknown number of hides. It is, like Michael already said, so much about search area coverage. It's not like you can say, okay, I know there are 3 hides. I'm going to find 1, 2, 3, call finish. That's where moving on quickly from one hide to the next really comes into play. If you're having to cover a whole huge space, I don't think that this really is going to save you any time. But a dog who really wants to drive out and hunt is going to save you time. So, I think at NW2 it might save you some time. But again, I would still address it the way we're talking about with majority picking up hides and being clear. My dog.
Gail keeps retracting your messages and making me like crazy. I'm like, oh wait, I wanted to read that. So you're making me very excited to try to see what you're writing.
Yes.
Okay, so what should we give away?
Let's give away a hoodie.
Okay, we're going to give away one of our hoodies off our website. You can pick which one you like. And what do we want? What trivia?
I've not thought of a trivia question. It's going to be very hard to judge this. It'll just have to be first person to answer. What's something that everyone or most people would know? It's not too easy.
Yeah. Could it be some trivia about our dogs that we have on our website somewhere?
We could ask for all of our dogs'
all of our
names
dogs' names and breeds.
In order by age?
Sure. Okay, the first person to post all of our dogs' names and breeds. Let's just leave it at that.
Okay.
That's simple enough. All of our dogs' names and breeds. Post it. And
here on YouTube.
Here on YouTube. You get a free hoodie. So that's in celebration of NAM episode 30. Too hard? Okay. Someone will get it.
Again, Michael gave you guys a hint. If you run over to our website, they're all
it's all
on
listed. Anyways,
it'll just take you a moment.
I think that's it for this month. Thanks so much.
Yeah, we can't hang up yet until someone gets the answer.
Yeah, we can.
Will it still show us all the I suppose it would show us the comments. Yeah. We have to figure out what we're doing for next month because I have added virtual classes on Wednesday nights. So, and this is a question.
She's betrayed me.
This is a question you guys can answer. Would you prefer just moving it down by 30 minutes, having it start at 8:30 on Wednesday? Because I can make 8:30.
Let's just do that.
Or moving it to another night.
Yeah, let's just
we have
do
quite
that.
A few East Coast people, so at 8:30 may be really late. But that might be the easiest thing. My class ends at 8:15. I should be able to be out here by 8:30.
Okay.
In which case, it would be on the 24th of June.
Okay. So hopefully we'll see you then. And then don't forget about Video Review Blitz. Send us videos if you haven't. If you want us to review them for free in public. Yeah,
and so Video Review Blitz will also need to move down by half an hour. So that will also be 8:30 now. And that will be June 10th. So Video Review Blitz on June 10th and NAMA on June 24th.
Okay, well.
All right, perhaps we have stumped everyone.
We may have. If we need to come up with a new trivia question, we will. But I'm sure you guys have the capability of looking it up.
Yes,
anyways,
just a little research.
We will announce who wins our hoodie on our Facebook page. And just let us know what color.
We'll have you pick the style and color. And Patty just needs to tell us what breeds they are.
No, she's missing one. She's missing one.
Oh, she is missing a dog.
We're not going to include our dead dogs.
No.
So,
you're very close, Patty.
You also, yeah.
So we'll get style, color, and size from whoever wins. She's getting there. This may take a while. We really picked a hard one.
Apparently. What are our names and breeds? Just kidding. Don't answer that.